Hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of My Favorite Things.
Brown paper packages tied up with strings. These are a few of my favorite things.
Yes, that was actually the inspiration for the name. As most of you have probably heard by now, Pixar is actually coming out with a sequel to The Incredibles. Whether this is a good or bad thing, I'm not sure. All the talent is returning, and Pixar has had some amazing sequels before, but The Incredibles seems perfectly fine as a standalone movie, and we all thought a sequel to Finding Nemo was a good idea too, right? Wrong! I'm not a big fan of what I'm seeing so far, but like it or not, The Incredibles 2 comes out next month, so what better time is there to talk about one of the most excellent animations of all time? Well, you know, next to B-Movie and Shrek. This movie pretty much has it all. Engaging characters, well thought out conflicts, maybe one of the best supervillains on screen, and underneath it all, grand themes that will keep us playing the movie over and over in our head long after the credits roll. So let's dive into the depths of what makes The Incredibles so memorable after all these years and why it's one of my favorite things. The story of The Incredibles is a fascinating one. Just note that some things I won't emphasize as much because they tie into other parts of the analysis. Okay, so in The Incredibles, it's the 1950s. Superheroes are a real thing, a part of everyday life, kinda like athletes in the real world. They fly around, help pedestrians, and fight bad guys, your typical stuff. Three of these, of course, being Elastigirl, Mr. Incredible, and Frozone.
Super suit?
What?
Where is my super suit?
However, after Mr. Incredible saves a man trying to commit suicide, he gets sued, leading to a wave of superheroes being prosecuted. This eventually leads to the ban of superheroes, with the government asking them to just become normal people instead. This then leads us into the beginning of the main story. Something Pixar does well is taking old concepts and making them feel new again. The Incredibles itself takes hold of ideas from other material, blends them together, and makes them feel new. The whole superheroes becoming illegal bit is straight out of Watchmen. The whole superhero family thing comes from the Fantastic Four, except this time around, they're all a nuclear family. Even 3/4 of the power sets are taken from them. Dash has super speed as opposed to fire, but both can be attributed to impulsive hotheads. As we further discuss the film, it becomes more and more noticeable how well layered the story is with interesting themes, concepts, and ideas all brought to life by well-written characters. The protagonists we follow in The Incredibles are the Parr family. No, their last name isn't actually Incredible, let's not be silly. You have Bob, who has super strength because he has to support the family. Helen is pretty much the elastic waistband because she stretches to hold the family together. Violet is invisible because she's, well, invisible. And again, Dash has super speed to match his impulsiveness and brashness. Wait, does Frozone have ice powers because he's mad chill? One reason why the Parr family works as our protagonists is because their struggles aren't these huge problems of aliens coming to destroy the world or whatever. No, they have normal family issues and are each flawed and have to learn something. However, these issues are heightened by the fact that powers are involved. For example, Bob tries to support his family, but can't hold a steady job and causes them to have to be relocated over and over. Even though he keeps making mistakes, Bob ultimately wins us over because he's making these mistakes in an effort to help people. Part of it may seem egotistical, like he just wants to relive the glory days, but we do see that even when he isn't given any credit, Bob is willing to stick his neck out for the helpless. The Incredibles now taking inspiration from Batman, who has a deep obsession with vigilantism that he finds impossible to quit. Mr. Incredible doesn't get as insane as some iterations of The Dark Knight, but they share this problem. It's just funny here because how he gets fired is by chucking Mr. Inconceivable through walls. And maybe it's constantly moving that causes emotional problems in the children. Violet is shy and clearly struggles with maintaining a social life in school. She's probably used to being the new girl and maybe decided to stop trying to make friends because she'll have to move soon anyways. Dash acts out in class, maybe in part because of this too. School has lost its value after he cycled through a few. At first, Bob and Helen both fail their duties in parenting. Bob constantly puts his urge to help people before his family, dipping to go stop crime with Lucius, instead of staying to talk about school and boring stuff like that. Helen is on the other extreme, trying to restrain Bob and Dash from using their natural talents so much that it causes them to look for negative outlets. Dash wants to play sports, but his mom doesn't let him because obviously he totally wreck everyone else who doesn't have the same talents. Violet has the opposite problem as Dash. Instead of being a show-off, she's taken up the exact role that society wants out of superhumans, to be quiet and out of the way of normal people. Despite all their flaws and contradictions, every Incredible is able to get something they want through compromise. Bob is able to do heroics, but with the rest of the family as Helen would want. Dash gets to compete in sports, but has to come in close second. When he can unleash his full potential, it's under a mask, so he's not getting fortune and glory. Also, Violet gets the attention of a boy she likes in school. As the superheroes come out of the shadows, she does too. I actually never noticed how well those two things correlate until I sat down to write this. I know this may seem like a lot, but trust me, it will all come back again, so take notes. Something that's a definite plus for this movie is how it isn't afraid to confront adult concepts. The Incredibles isn't pointlessly dark or grotesque, but it doesn't treat its audiences like children. They may very well be children, but you get what I mean. I already mentioned a man trying to kill himself in the opening of the film, but there are more examples like this. Helen suspects that Bob's cheating on her as he constantly goes away on business trips, and she finds a blonde hair on his suit. This again ties into the idea of Bob abandoning his family in pursuit of the glory days. Also, death is a reality. A lot of superhero TV shows and some movies don't grasp the weight and danger of what these characters are doing. They're putting themselves in harm's way, and every day could be their last. What good is the ability to fly when a bullet can whiz right through your head? Helen makes sure Dash and Violet understand this after they were just shot out of the sky. Plucky children aren't gonna come save the day and take down the clumsy henchmen. No! These guys are armed to the teeth and will kill on sight. This is something I've always admired about Pixar. They treat their audiences with a level of intelligence. Something some companies, Sony, don't do. But introducing these dark concepts makes this world believable. Like, these are actual characters, actual people, and actual antagonists who brutally murder. Speaking of which, I probably have said this about a lot of antagonists so far, but Syndrome is one of the best in an animation or superhero movie. What makes him great is that he has a point. Syndrome may arguably have the right idea. Poor little Buddy loved Mr. Incredible. He so desperately wanted to be a super as great as his role model, but was rejected for not being super, or because Bob knows what happens to kid sidekicks, but never mind. Just because these schmoes were born with special talents, they think they're above the law and treat average people as below them, at least from his perspective. Syndrome, though, is a self-made man. He didn't need to be born with special powers. He was smart enough to develop his own technology, even at a young age, but he was still rejected. Maybe these guys do suck. So, in a final effort to prove himself, he builds weapons and technologies that far surpass the power of every super, showing his dominance. Okay, maybe the slaughter of the heroes was a bit too far. He straight up orders 66s, all of them. But that's another thing I like about Syndrome. He serves as an extension to the mindset of those who wanted superheroes out of the picture. He's the embodiment of these ideas, although he does take the extremist route. Banning them wasn't enough. No, he wants them dead. Once they're out of the way, Syndrome plans to mass produce and sell his tech to the public. This way everyone gets to be super, and no one will be better than anyone else. So, as you can see, Syndrome's not some big dumb villain who just serves as a punching bag. No, he's an interesting character with his own view of how the world should be, and desperately strives to achieve his ideal world. A world that takes to the extreme what has already been set in motion by the government. Although that would have made for a great segue into the themes, one last thing I want to touch on is Syndrome's death. Mr. Incredible flat out kills him. Bob takes a car and chucks it at him, causing him to get sliced up by his plane. This may be controversial, and maybe some parents find this inappropriate, but I think it's a necessary conclusion for Buddy. He's an extremely intelligent mastermind who has committed genocide and now personally attacks the Parr family by attempting to kidnap and brainwash Jack Jack. In a lot of superhero movies, the protagonist doesn't kill, and the villain winds up dying by mistake or something. But it gets to the point where there's no other option. When someone this crazy is attacking your family and has all but waged war on the populace, if you get the chance, it is your responsibility to kill him. Well, I say him for Syndrome, but it could be a her too. What if Bob didn't throw that car? Syndrome would have came back and threatened everyone again, killing even more than he already has and possibly members of his family, and that would have been on him. Again, The Incredibles doesn't screw with its audience and give us false messages that sound good and dandy but aren't, like never killing. Sorry, Syndrome, you chose the wrong movie to play the villain. I love how Pixar movies, well, the good ones, have something important to say. It's not just mindless entertainment like you know what. There's a lot you can take away from this. The first theme in The Incredibles, well, not that they're in any particular order, is talent. And it's not the lame, follow your heart and pursue your dreams kind of thing. Nah, this movie is brutally honest. Some people have amazing talents, while others just don't. Bob can lift cars and stuff, while your average Joe doesn't have powers. They can't fly, no matter how hard they try. Sometimes they can be so awesome that they're discouraged from being awesome. Dash has amazing talent, yet he's not allowed to play sports because he'll always win. A good real-world example is that one kid in school who knows literally everything and is resented by their classmates. This also directly ties to the other major yet similar theme, which is being exceptional. Again, Dash is exceptional, Mr. Incredible is exceptional, but both aren't or wouldn't be welcomed in society for being so great, and are forced to look for outlets on the side to blow off steam. The majority of people, or at least lawmakers, don't want to be around people who are better than them. They just want everybody to be equal, even though that's impossible because talent. Nobody likes to feel lesser than anyone else. But don't get me wrong, I'm not calling the supers more valuable than their normal citizens, just that they have special talents. This is where Dash comes into play, in this little exchange he has with Helen.
But Dad always said our powers were nothing to be ashamed of. Our powers made us special.
Everyone's special, Dash.
Which is another way of saying no one is.
This directly ties into Syndrome when he says,
"And when everyone's super, no one will be."
Everyone wants to feel super, even if they aren't. Yes, technically everyone is special and that they're unique, like what other YouTuber mixes movies, video games, dinosaurs, SpongeBob, and memes? I don't know. However, not everybody's exceptional like Dash, like Bob, no matter how much they want to be. This is where the third main concept, individual achievement, comes in. Everybody wants to be super, but aren't. Syndrome offers the masses a final solution, eliminating every human who is exceptional and providing the technology necessary for everyone to become super. And once everyone is super, or special, then no one is. No one stands out. Nobody rises above the norm. You just get a sea of mediocrity. This averageness isn't even just a norm or what's expected. Worse, it's celebrated.
It's not a graduation. He is moving from the 4th grade to the 5th grade.
It's a ceremony.
It's psychotic. They keep creating new ways to celebrate mediocrity, but if someone is genuinely exceptional, then...
In a desperate attempt to make kids feel better about themselves, pointless rewards and achievements are created. The Incredibles spits in the face of this. It encourages parents, teachers, lawmakers to, instead of just appeasing kids for this example, to set a high bar and train them to reach it. If they can't reach it, well, they've probably still improved themselves in the attempt, making it worth it. This also gives the exceptional something to strive for and achieve, as opposed to feeling unchallenged and bored by the average standards. This theme is especially important in the West today. In the Far East, students are going hardcore at education and working hard to become the best. They're hyper competitive. Meanwhile, over here, we like to give participation awards. We like to give the illusion that everybody's equal in terms of talent, when that is far from the truth. Why make people work hard to achieve success, to be the best, or any bar at all, when you can grab that bar and pull it 10 feet down so everyone can reach it? This thinking, in turn, has led to a generation of snowflakes and babies who will keep being outcompeted by those competitive cultures. If you want to go even further, perhaps you can even take this discussion to political and economic philosophy by describing this as a fight between liberalism and socialism. No, not Johnson liberalism, but more Thoreau and Locke. Liberalism emphasizing the individual and providing the room for these individuals to achieve without big government in the way. Then contrast this with a socialist society in which nobody really achieves besides greedy government officials, while everyone else is equally mediocre. Or starving. Usually the latter. No, we just haven't done communism right yet. Man, just wait until the 3-part Bioshock special comes out for 100 subs. Boy, are we gonna have a field day with 20th century philosophy. Man, there's a lot here to analyze. That's why The Incredibles is such a special movie. But there are other things to complete the awesome experience. For one, the soundtrack is excellent. There's a great blend here of era-accurate jazz, giving a bit of those Bond and 1960s feel. At the same time, it gets to be grand and triumphant, like if I'm watching Richard Donner's Superman. Great stuff. The animation is also top-notch for its time. Of course, not as good as what we have now, but I'm a fair judge. Also, don't get the sense that this is an overwhelming or heavy movie. Actually, it's a lot of fun and very entertaining. There are a lot of scenes and dialogues to laugh at, like Dash's crazy teacher and the kid who keeps seeing crazy things happening at the Parr household. When the action comes in, it's entertaining and cool enough. All the characters are very well voice acted too, and some side characters such as Edna and again Mr. Inconceivable's character are funny and whimsical. It all works so well. There's usually a section where I outline the film's problems, but this is The Incredibles we're talking about. Are there any glaring issues that need addressing? Not really. The Incredibles is without any reasonable doubt one of the greatest animated movies ever made. Of course, I have to say one of the best because that. When it comes to family entertainment and animation, some studios just flat out decide, nah, we're not gonna try. The bar is so much lower when talking about kids movies, so these studios think they can get away with spewing out garbage. Then, when someone presses them, they hide behind the excuse that, oh, it's just for kids. But this is what made the good Pixar movies stand out so much. They give kids and families entertainment that will actually increase their number of brain cells. They make clever films full of meaning so that we can grow up with them and love them even more over time, as we realize all the themes and messages carefully woven throughout. The Incredibles is the pinnacle of this idea. It will fall off the cliff later, but they did great here. Oh, it's a fun movie about a family of superheroes, right? Yeah, maybe on the outside, but there are so many more layers that you can keep peeling back and find something new. Pull one layer back, and oh, it's about using your talents. Pull another layer, and you'll find it to be about exceptional men and women in society. Then another layer down, you'll get the promotion of individual achievement as opposed to everybody being equally mediocre, so the mediocre feel good about themselves. The Incredibles is the ultimate onion, and with relatable characters, a realistic world with actual weight, a fantastic conflict with the antagonist, and this scene again. The Incredibles is an incredible movie, and certainly one of my favorite things. Remember, if you enjoyed this video, to please leave a like and subscribe. See you next week. Yeah.